In the first 3 videos, you built the essential elements of the game: the shooter, the projectile, and the target. Now we're going to add a few extra elements, and in the video after this one, make some modifications to the gameplay to make your game more fun, more unique, and a little bit more challenging. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up a scorer and a timer. I'll create and show 2 variables. I'll show you how to change variables using positive and negative integers. For the scorer, we're going to use an if-then condition. If touching a sprite, then change the score. For the timer, we're going to set, use a repeat loop, and then when it counts down to 0, use the stop all block to end the game. To begin with, let's look at the scorer. What we want to program is when the projectile hits the target, we want a score to change. So if I click the spacebar and I hit a sprite, we want the score to change. So the first step in doing that is to create a scorer variable. I'm going to make a variable, and I'm going to call this scorer. I'm using a capital letter at the start because the word I'm typing here is going to appear on the screen and becomes the title of the score. You can think about where the best place is to put it. I'm going to move it down to the bottom because most of the action happens at the top. I'm going to put the scorer script on my target sprite. So when the green flag is clicked, I'm going to set the score to 0. Then in the script, where the sensing between the target and the lightning is set up, I have to change the score. Now I want the score to count up, so I'm going to change the scorer by 1. So now I need a condition. The condition I'm going to use is if-then. If touching the lightning, change score by 1. Sensing, touching the lightning, change score by 1. Now I'm going to put this on the outside. It only really needs to be before the delete block. So this condition controls the movement. When the lightning touches the target sprite, the clone is not going to delete until it runs through this script to change the score. Let's test that. And you can see the score changing. Now the timer is a little bit more complicated, but if you've made one before, you might like to skip past this video and see if you can work it out yourself. It doesn't really matter which sprite you put the timer in. Because I've got my scorer in my target sprite, I'm going to add the timer to this target sprite as well too. Just like with the scorer, the first step is to create a data variable. So I'm going to make a variable and I'm going to name this timer. Again, like with the scorer, I've used title case here because this piece of text is going to appear on my stage. Click OK. And I'm going to move my timer down to my bottom right-hand corner. So with the timer, what I want to do is set the timer to a particular number and count backwards down to 0, and when the timer reads 0, the game is stopped. So now the second step is to set the timer to a particular amount. Now I'm going to start with 10 seconds. The reason why I'm starting with 10 seconds is just so that I can run an easy test on this and I'm not having to wait for a minute or 2 minutes to see what happens when it gets down to 0. I am intending on making a 60-second timer for this game, but that'll be my last step to change my numbers back to 60. So I'm going to set my timer to 10 and I'm going to use a repeat loop. Now inside the repeat loop, I want to be able to wait 1 second and change the timer by -1 so that it counts down. So I'm going to wait 1 second and then I'm going to change the timer by -1. So now I've set the timer to 10 seconds. I've got 10 repeats of 1 second and changing the timer, and at the very end, I want to stop all. So I need an event block now when the green flag is clicked. I'm going to test this now. I'm not going to try to shoot anything. I'm just going to watch the time go down to 0. So I can see the time is counting down, and now when it gets to 0, all of the clones should disappear, and it does that. So the game is stopped. So that's my timer working. Now I need to change it to 60 seconds. So I'm going to change this value to 60, setting the timer to 60, and then I'm going to repeat 60 times so it counts down to 0. When it gets to 0, it's going to stop all. In the next video, I'm going to give you some ideas on how you can modify your game to improve it, to make it more fun, to consider different goals and rules and strategies that you can bring into the gameplay.